Hello, nerds, and welcome. We are Crossing the Nerdverse, bringing you yet another episode. My name is Travis. I'm joined, as always, by my fantastic co-host, Eric. This week, we are without Ryan and Clark, as they both had prior obligations, but have brought in a very good friend of mine. I consider him, out of my friend group, the definite expert on comics, a very active collector, and as that's the topic this week, I felt like bringing him in was going to be a good idea. So, James, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, some of your nerd cred?
What's up, everybody? My name's James, as Travis mentioned. I've been a nerd. Started playing D&D since I was 8 with my older brothers. Started playing Magic about that time. Started playing D&D with Travis. I think it was like junior high or something like that. With Ryan, too, back in the day.
Early 2000s?
Yeah. Huge comic book fan. Didn't really start collecting comics until my adult years. Because, Podunk, New Mexico didn't really have a comic book shop. But
budget is also a problem, too, when you're junior high and high school and have to beg somebody for dollars.
I would have figured it out. We figured it out for the D&D books.
That's fair.
But yeah, I don't know. I have a pretty good collection going right now. Well over 5 long boxes worth. You know what that means, but pretty good collection. So I'm excited to get into this.
So for those of you that don't know, the long boxes are like really like extended, essentially a banker's box almost, I think.
They're about, 100 comics? I think it is.
Yeah, sounds about right.
So yeah. quite a few in the collection right now.
That's boarded and plastic too, not just like comics. I think it's about 100 if you plastic and board them in the long ones.
Yeah, all mine are board and bagged.
Smart man.
If you just squish them in there, you could probably get a couple more. I mean, don't worry.
A few more.
Yeah, just fold them. You can get side by side if you fold them in half. Don't do that. For those of you that collect comics, it's not a good idea.
Oh yeah, no, it's actually about 270 with board and bag.
270 per box. There's quite a few boxes too.
The short box is about 100.
Gotcha. Eric, how was your week, brother?
Not bad, man. Just work. Trying to keep up with my kids. Still doing jujitsu. I'm getting better, kind of. And then I think that's pretty much it, man. Like, just jujitsu, work, podcast shit. Active again on TikTok, and we're doing shorts on YouTube. Yeah, I've been super bumming on that. So our videos, we've been uploading almost, I think, pretty much daily this week on YouTube Shorts and TikTok and stuff like that. And we got our collab coming up. I think it's critting in the Nerdverse. We're gonna do that with Too Legit to Crit. I don't believe it's going to be live. We're going to tape it and then we'll put it out.
We're definitely going to have to edit it because this is going to be a long session. Definitely going to have to get some edits in.
It'll be interesting. And I think that's it right now. That's going on. Oh, Christmas stuff's still out if someone wants a shirt.
That's fair. I'm going to have to find a way to work Ryan's tentacle fetish into being mentioned during the show. I got to get him to admit to it at least out loud once around new people. Because that brings joy to me, is doing stuff like that to Ryan, old Tentai Rai, as we like to call him.
Dude, it's not going to be hard. They're an outgoing bunch. If you haven't listened to their show yet,
I did listen to an early episode.
We're kind of a similar type. They're just the overseas version of us in a sense.
So, my week has been predominantly adjusting to life as a parent. We're trying to still get all of our schedules and stuff figured out with new baby. It's definitely a wild experience. I've been trying to catch up on wrestling news very desperately, but so far no luck. I have found a good form of like catharsis and stress management at work is listening to serial killer podcasts and going, I can see why people at my work would be victims. It's been kind of a frustrating week.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like, a little bit, man.
I mean, I've had meeting after meeting, so they've moved me over to like quoting gear, which is pretty intensive, right? Because you have to read the spec sheets, you have to figure out exactly what you need to plug in, and it has to be correct. Because if you miss something on a quote and it's supposed to be included, you're just out that dollars, man. Like they're just gone, and you have to eat that cost. So it's a little stressful trying to knock out 10 to 15 of those a day. And make sure they're all correct. I have a real struggle trying to get the AIC rating for those of you that know what that is, but that has to be calculated correctly, and I am not the best at math, so that calculator is out pretty much all the time. They even gave me a little cheat sheet, and I'm still slow. But
that's like me and leveling bubbles.
I have a whole ass degree in math, and I still use the calculator more often than not.
Yeah. The other guy that quotes gear, he's been doing it for like, I think 8 years now. And he's like, yeah, you don't need a calculator to do AIC. It's just this, this, and this, and that gives you your number. And I'm like, no, we're not doing that. Like he was trying to tell me to calculate transformer ratings and stuff. And I'm like, no, dude, I'm not doing a transformer rating. If they don't list it on the plans, I'm just going to ask them like a dummy. Like, you're going to have to tell me what size you need. And they're like, it's on the plans. Just do the math. And I'm like, I'm not doing this math.
Oh, one more thing. So in regards to reviewing like podcast, things like that. So I'm still working on Remembrance Card. Oh man, I got to look it up, the name of it. Anyways, it's a pretty neat one where they go over a movie. One of them does, like one watched it and one of them hasn't lately. They try to remember the whole movie. And if you don't, you lose your card. Remembership card. And it looks like a Blockbuster thing. Pretty neat show. Had some interaction with them. They're not bad.
I could tell you right now, that is what occupies like 90% of my brain is either movie quotes or song lyrics that I will never, ever need.
Yeah, they definitely they get into it with the movie stuff. It's kind of cool. So yeah, that's the other thing is I'm still doing them. They're just coming out a little slower because I'm doing a lot.
That's fair.
I am slow too. That's a valid statement. But
I'm just really excited that we talked about something semi-normal for the intro instead of you bringing up like breadcrumbs and spaghetti and Pikachu versus Gundams. So
I'm on to meatloafs. I'm working on
breadcrumbs. Do go in meatloaf. That's reasonable. They don't go in spaghetti.
No, it goes into the meatballs, not spaghetti. And spaghetti
Don't let him bullshit you. He's just sprinkling croutons across the top of spaghetti. Like he says garlic and cheese. It's the same as toast. It's just a crouton. Shake it out over the top.
Trying to be efficient,
Yeah.
You can do anything you want.
If you just boil the garlic bread with your noodles, they're both cooked together.
Dude, that might work.
No, it would not work it out. I'm never eating at your house.
Dude, I'm debating on, I want to try to air fry spaghetti. That's my next thing I want to do. Like spaghetti, meatballs, the sauce, all of it together.
Sauce should take you at least 9 hours if you do it correctly.
In the air fryer?
No, you don't make sauce in the air fryer.
Oh, I'm gonna get a filter. I'm gonna put it in
the Dutch oven. I'm just picturing coffee filters and then tomatoes.
Yeah, that's the fuck I got.
That's gonna be it. It's just tomato. He's gonna get a potato masher and just squish them down.
I'm gonna film it. That's what I'm gonna do.
Honestly,
show.
I'm gonna say right now, you could probably get viral on TikTok if you made spaghetti sauce in the air fryer and it was just coffee filters with frickin' tomatoes on top of it.
I'd have some oregano, right, sprinkled on the top.
It's just already dry oregano before you put it in the air fryer.
I'm excited about
charcoal
comics,
floating around in there.
Only because
back on topic.
I'm super curious in regards to what you started with your comics, because I know I was just wild with comics. I could never fucking pick what I wanted to be like in the sense of like a collector of like Marvel, DC, or all the other companies too. Like there's just so many out there that people don't realize, and it's a lot more interesting.
It's crazy because I mean, you're sure there's Marvel and DC, like everybody knows those, right? But there are, I mean, especially now, there's so many more. It's like outrageous.
Yeah. I know Infinity is a new company that's doing really well right now with comics. If I remember, I think it's Infinity. Could be wrong with that name.
Like Marvel and DC, right? And then the kind of the next biggest ones after that are like Dark Horse, IDW, Boom. I like Boom a lot, actually. They make a lot of good stuff. I mean, and there's some others too. Like I could probably go on forever, really. I mean, there's just huge numbers. And then there's also like comic imprints. So like these studios or publishers, like Marvel, create imprints, which are like Marvel Knights or Max, which are still Marvel, but they're just like, we wanted to make a whole run of just, street level heroes. So we made Marvel Knights. Mm-hmm. So that's all like Daredevil and Blade, and you have all those characters that they made a bunch of comic runs for that, and they just put it under the Marvel Knights imprint. And yeah, like so every studio also has a bunch of imprints that are like more niche kind of runs for comics.
Yeah, I definitely did not know that.
Yeah, so you might be like looking at this comic like Vertigo. Vertigo is the comics for like Neil Gaiman's comics, like Sandman. They're all under Vertigo, but Vertigo is just a DC imprint.
Okay, well, I mean, I guess Marvel's kind of smarter. They stuck it and kept it with Marvel, so like Marvel Knights and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's Marvel and then whatever, because like there was the Max series for a long time from the Punisher that I read.
Max is a good one. Max is like the more adult-oriented Marvel comics. It's like more hardcore Punisher stories, stuff like that.
Yeah, honestly, that's the last comic that I follow pretty regularly is Punisher and Frank Castle. The one where the arc where he became the head of the Hand is wrapping up soon.
Yep, actually, excited to see that's finished or is about to finish.
I think it's about to finish. I think they have one more edition coming out for it. I think I could be wrong. I've been wrong before. It's definitely a dope story. He definitely fits the profile of people that they want to run the Hand. He's a very efficient man. If nothing else, several war crimes later, but efficiency is key when you're Frank Castle. So,
I mean, you get the work done.
Yeah, there's been some other like fun arcs in regards to like those weird ones where, like the weird takeover. Old Man Logan was a fun arc. Like it was definitely a more adult-oriented one.
It might be an arc, but it has grown and just gotten crazy ever since it came out. I don't think Marvel thought it was going to get the publicity and excitement out of it that it has. Like even the Wolverine character himself made it to the main timeline for a while. Like it was nuts. I didn't see that coming at all.
I mean, I kind of did. That was a really good story.
It's kind of funny. So the guy that wrote Old Man Logan is Mark Millar, who you definitely, you definitely know his stuff. Even if you don't know it's him, like he has a huge bibliography of things that have been made into movies and TV shows, like The Kingsman, Old Man Logan, of course, Civil War, Wanted, Kick-Ass. Those are all his stories, and like all of those have been,
amazing,
made into movies or TV shows.
Multiple IPs on pretty much all of them, because I mean, I know they did some. I think Old Man Logan got some video game skins on various other like IPs.
Well, and technically speaking, I think it was because the comic was had so many just graphic and interesting things to it. They couldn't put it in the movie, so they had to alter it. Like when they made Logan, technically it was based off of Old Man Logan. They had to alter it a little bit because you couldn't have the inbreeding and some of the other stuff.
Dude, Hillbilly Hulk was
really
wild.
fed into.
Hillbilly Hulk
I don't think that
tripped me out.
Yeah, you wouldn't get Disney doing that. I think that was another thing too. Is Logan wasn't? I don't think Disney had a hand in Logan.
Fox.
I think that was still Fox at the time.
Yeah,
and so Disney owned a lot of them. Yeah, So
yeah, that was their last successful
X-Men
IP, I think, that they did as far as like box office IP goes.
Oh, you didn't like Wolverine Origin?
That's my favorite one, actually.
Yeah, it's the best.
But so in regards to like you just mentioned, there's a lot of other different like comic things out there. What's Boom known for? Isn't that Power Rangers? Most like they have a lot of Power Rangers stuff. I know that from my kids.
I thought Bandai did their own printing of comics for.
Transformers. Actually, it's like all Marvel now. Transformers plays in Marvel, and then I think G.I. Joe too. Power Rangers.
That's the big one I noticed, and like they get some dark shit in there, dude. Like I like it because it's not like this kid friendly stuff. Like when it comes to like the Power Rangers now.
Well, it's like so comics in like the early days of comics in DC, it was definitely like all for kids, right? And everything was super happy. And then kind of when Stan Lee came around and started making a little bit more kind of adult things like Spider-Man, who like wasn't just like good guy always beating the bad guy. He was like also dealing with like real life stuff, real life issues.
Yeah.
And then later on, like really like in the like Alan Moore era, he really pushed the bounds with like the Watchmen. He did a run on Swamp Thing.
The Watchmen was
really like
dark.
V for Vendetta, so Alan Moore, like he really really pushed the bounds of like what was an adult comic, right? Like, and then that's kind of where now you have like other IPs for things that you think are just for kids, but they make really great stories. And I think that's just like to tell you how good of a method comic book can be for storytelling.
Yeah, I know the original Ninja Turtles started off as being fairly dark in its early runs of comics, and then eventually they were like, this would be way easier to market to kids, and like it just made that transition pretty quickly. All things considered, there wasn't a whole lot of like big flips, but they do still make some of the darker ones.
I mean, the last Ronin just came out a couple of years ago or something like that. That was a pretty dark storyline.
Yeah. Oh, I'm excited for that video game too. Like I'm all in on that one. I'm gonna wait for drop before I pick it up, but I want it to be good so bad.
I want to see it before I mess with it, but
I don't pre-order anything anymore.
Me either.
But I was trying to think what else Boom had, because I remember I heard about them the other. Like I was big IDW Power Rangers, because of
the big thing.
Power Rangers is huge.
Yeah, and they kill. Like you actually see them die in the comics and stuff now. That's pretty neat. But I think IDW is all Transformers and G.I. Joe. And Ghostbusters. Studio
does Berserker, which is a fucking comic book by Keanu Reeves. And it's really fucking good. I like it a lot.
I did not know.
I forgot about Berserker. Not to be confused
weird. It's
with
like
the anime.
Yeah,
it's not the anime. BRZR KR or something like that. It's got no fucking
I think it's like BRZR KR. It's supposed to be like an acronym, I think, of some kind. Not to be confused with Berserk, which is like a manga, and anime, which is insanely dark. Don't watch that with kids unless you're ready to deal with whatever nightmares they're going to have.
That's some trauma right there.
Yeah, no kid. That's generational trauma. That's going to fuck up their kids. Like, that shit.
But I definitely didn't know that Keanu Reeves, is he writing it?
Yeah.
Or is he just like...
Yeah, he's writing it.
Okay.
He's got somebody else. He's like co-writing it, but I mean, he's definitely involved in writing.
He's also doing like the producing and stuff like that. He doesn't do any of the art, as far as I'm aware.
Well, I didn't.
No.
I wouldn't be surprised
if he
did. No Keanu Reeves is a dope dude.
Another really big Boom Studios comics is Something's Killing the Children. It's like hugely popular and also pretty dark, but I think it's phenomenal.
Given the title, I'd jump into that and say it's probably on the more like grimdark side of things.
I have I don't know, like the first 3 trade paperback volumes.
Speaking of grimdark, the Warhammer comics, is that through Marvel as well?
Yeah, it is through Marvel. Yeah.
God, they're gonna own everything towards the end of it. I mean, it's just gonna be. every video game is going to be Fortnite, and everything in print and or other media is going to be Disney at this point.
Yeah.
So as a comic collector,
Hasbro's going to make a good run too. I have a feeling they're going to be the last holdout before they get bought out by
Disney. Everyone's by Disney. Yeah. Mickey Mouse just ruling the world. But so as a comic collector, what's your preference, or like if someone was to get into collecting, do you recommend, like, for collectors they buy like you can buy the Omni or whatever, the like 4 comics in 1 books? Is that good for collecting? I know it's good for just reading. Like, I enjoy just reading them. I don't collect for value, like money or anything like that. But I don't think those have much value. I think it's mostly the single comics, right?
Yeah. I like trades and Omnis. Omnis definitely. Probably. Yeah, I agree. They're not going to have much value for like a collector, though. I have a bunch because I like to read stuff too, right? Yeah. Like, it's not just collecting. Though I think for me, unless it's something I know that I like, I'm not going to buy like a trade for it, or I'm not going to spend $30 for a big collection when I can spend $4 for a comic and see if I actually even like the story first. So
right. Where did you start with comic collecting? Like, what was your first big purchase?
Man, hell if I know, but probably something to do with Marvel. I mean, it's like they're an easy in. They're pretty easy to read, and they have a variety of stories. I mean, they have some pretty dark stories too. So, and also some pretty lighthearted stuff. So there's lots of stuff in there. I like Doctor Strange a lot, so I'm pretty sure some of my first comics will probably be Doctor Strange.
Yeah. Now, so when you collect, are you going for value? Are you going for personal preference? Are you going for just whatever catches your eye?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think so. This whole speculating on value is what caused the whole crash in the early and mid '90s. Like comic book companies started flooding, the markets with all these variants, and everybody started like trying to speculate on what was going to be valuable. It's like what literally caused the crash of almost bankruptcy of Marvel.
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of dumb to try to like. Oh, like, I just want this to be valuable. I think for me, it's like, do I like the story? Do I like a writer or an artist? I think those are like the 3 big.
Yeah, I was gonna say
points big draws.
I was gonna say you definitely sound like you know a lot of the names for the comics. Like when I was heavy into it for a little while, like I kind of kept up with names, but a lot of it was just I'm a pure like title person. So like when I got back into comics, I jumped into Transformers. Generation 1.
Shocked.
Yeah, right. But I didn't keep up with like artists and stuff like that. Whenever I read reviews, people were like, "Oh, I'm not excited about this artist or that artist." So I didn't mess with that too much. I've always just been big on the story and the actual like name brand, I guess you'd say, to my comics instead of just people's.
Yeah, I really don't. The artists never really. Like, there's some artists that I really like. The lady that has been doing, I keep drawing a blank on her name. She's doing X-23's current run, or she may have done the last run. I think X-23 is kind of on one of those pauses where they cycle her towards the back. But I want to say her last name was Kim, if I remember correctly. But
I don't know. X-23 is not a book that I picked up.
Yeah, I love all things Wolverine, and so it was their crossover. It was when she took over as the Wolverine, which was a really fun arc to read. I really enjoyed it, and her artwork was absolutely amazing, which is why I ended up picking up so much of it. Because towards the end of the storyline, I was just like, I wasn't as invested as I was at the beginning, but I was still kind of like picking them up and just be like, this artwork is amazing, and so I just flipped through and like look at all the little pretty pictures. Because
there's definitely so as far as like interior art goes for comics, I mean, I'm familiar with some of them and I like some more than others, but I don't really pick up comics for interior art. I will pick up a comic if there's a cover art that I like, and there's a lot. Like there's like Peach Momoko. She does a bunch of really cool kind of like watercolor style covers. So and she's really hot right now. Like she was at New York Comic Con, I think this last year or something like that, pretty recently, and she had to leave a day early. She had to close down and leave because it was like everybody's in line, and it's like such a huge line. It's causing such a problem. And she's a comic book artist, so it's pretty crazy.
It's good to see artists getting that kind of like credit and crowd draw at Comic-Cons, because like you get like the voice actors that'll sometimes have huge lines. Obviously, like the movie stars and stuff that they bring in are always huge cues. And I'm guilty of standing in line for a long time just to get an autograph of somebody I like. I mean, I'm looking at my Morena Baccarin signed photo I've got hanging up on my wall right here. I've got another one that I put up for the Covenant Christmas party that was Alan Tudyk.
Yeah, I have that one.
Yeah, you got the Alan Tudyk autograph print, which, by the way,
such a in our theater over there.
Nice. Yeah, those of you that have not met Alan Tudyk, he's so freaking nice. Like, his manager was like having to like elbow him and nudge him. He's like, you have to move faster. There's so many people. You can't talk this long to everybody. So you got to go, dude. And so, yeah, all right. Super, super dope guy.
When you're getting into your comics, do you read and then bag and board and like it's gone forever, or do you go back to them?
I definitely go back. It's like, especially if it's like a story. Actually, I was just doing that recently. Who brought this up? I was like, oh man, there's a couple issues from this run, this book called Arrow. I missed the last 2 issues, so I went back and picked those up, and it's like, all right, read it all over again, start at the beginning, right back through those. But I mean, for a lot of them, it is just like, one. Sometimes I don't even read them, honestly. Like sometimes I like get too many. I'm just like, well, fuck it, it's just going in a box. Or like, again, if I pick up something just for like the cover art, maybe I'll read it, maybe I won't. Depends on what I got going on.
Yeah, I picked up a run of Stephen King's The Dark Tower series. They made into a multi-part comic, basically chronicling some of his other adventures that weren't ever mentioned in the book. They did a mosaic style cover art for the run, so if you bought all of the alternate prints, it made like a bigger picture. I thought I had
the fade for the comic, but I guess I do not. It's not here. It might be put up somewhere.
I hunted for. I probably went to like 5 or 6 comic shops just in the DFW area to get those. I actually gifted them to my friend Bryce.
Would be nice to have that kind of comic book selection, because we don't have that here where I'm at. We have one store, and then the next Walmart. Closest store is like fucking hours away.
Yeah, Walmart does put out comics occasionally that are like they have like little bags. And it's like 4 comics, and they'll be like exclusive covers.
Oh,
yeah, you can actually get some pretty like.
To them.
You get some pretty dope art on some of those little grab bags that they put out of different characters. You're not ever going to get any of the like real nitty gritty comics, obviously, from Walmart, but
oh yeah, no, they're very like they're definitely the big like they're like Marvel and DC, you know, like.
No first edition releases in those.
So, have you ever stood in line for a comic book release there, James?
No, because they have this cool thing called a pull list. So you just call up your comic book store and you're just like, hey, the one I used to go to here called Hall of Justice Comics, which I think is amazing. But yeah, they would do it every Wednesday is New Comic Book Day. That's when new comic books get to be put on sale. They actually usually get to the distributor and get sent out to comic book shops on like Tuesday night. And so they'll put them all up and they're for sale on Wednesday. So these guys have a show that they do where they're like, hey, this is what's new, and then you can just be like, hey, keep this one for me, put this one in my pull box. During their live show, you can just like, put that in my pull box for me.
Yeah, and you just swing by and pick it up. Yep. So before the days of the pull box, I actually stood in line because I felt like it was going to be a more lasting arc than it was. I will say I bid on that pretty hard, but that was the death of Captain America. I stood in line to get the exclusive cover that they did for that one, and then was really pissed when like a month later they brought him back from the dead. And I was like, you're killing me. This would have been like, that would have been such a turning point for Marvel with Captain America gone. And then, as always, got to hit that reset button, got to keep that IP alive.
Dude, they just killed one of my favorite characters in the comics.
Pikachu.
Huge spoiler for people that read comics. Beast Boy's dead.
Oh, good. Yeah, that's right. Well, he's dead for now.
Yeah, for now. Don't worry. That reset button will get hit. Don't worry about it, Doug.
I mean, DC is notorious for doing like huge like world resets. So
DC seems to be
but he'll come back.
Yeah, DC resets all the time. Every year, DC resets their world. I think it's fucking ridiculous. Like that's why I don't even buy DC. If I go into a comic book store, the only thing I look at is like anything Batman and maybe like the Bat Family. And that's like it from DC. I can't stand like every time you turn around, the New 52 or the this or the that.
Yeah, the New 52.
The Bat Family comics are pretty solid. Like I like the ones that are following like Nightwing, Batgirl.
Actually,
Red Hood,
like Batman.
Yeah,
Red Hood. I actually can't really like get behind too much DC in general. I like some Batman, like Alan Moore. Again, he wrote The Killing Joke. That's probably
great.
The best in Batman story, in my opinion.
No, you're right.
The Dark Knight's Metal arc was really fucking good with the Batman Who Laughs and all that. I really love that a lot.
The Batman Who Laughs was really good too.
And that's, I think, probably the extent of my I love this Batman stories.
Batman used to be like back when it was like Detective Batman, who was like solving crimes and catching murders, was way more compelling because he's struggling to keep the image of Bruce Wayne up. He's struggling to be Batman. He has turned into the golden era Superman, in my opinion, of the more modern comics, and he's boring. He's gonna come up with some sort of wacky bat invention. He's not even really a detective anymore. He's just a really advanced engineer, and he's gonna catch the guy at the end, and that's just how it goes. And like, there's no more moral struggle anymore. Really, there's not really any of that dark, gritty feeling that you got from the early Batman runs. And then you look at Superman, who's like trying to figure out how he can be like, what's the morality of him being so involved on a planet that he's not even a species of? Like, how far does he step in? How often, when is it okay to step in? When is it not? Why is he here? And he's struggling with all these like real personal things. So he's just out there, still catching bad guys and being Superman. But he's like, am I doing the right thing anymore? Like, the more I save them, the more they keep killing each other. And it has actually become pretty compelling with Superman, who used to be like, I have a new power and can defeat that, like,
yeah.
Another Mark Millar story was Red Sun Superman, or Superman Red Sun.
Oh yeah.
You ever read that's probably my favorite Superman story.
I've snatched up a few of those. Like I said, they've got some really good.
What if Superman was a commie?
Did they make Injustice into a comic book yet?
Yes.
That video game.
There's an Injustice comic run.
Yeah. That was the best DC run. I don't care what anybody says, dude. Injustice, the best storyline, hands down. Like, I don't know. I don't think there's any way they could have done any better. The movie they made was awful. And he killed Nightwing. He comes back as some weirdo ghost. Like, the fuck is this? This is crazy for DC. That's probably the only animated DC thing I didn't like.
Yeah,
the Injustice one.
DC does really good animations.
Yeah, they have their animation studio down pat, man. I say that replacing Mark Hamill as Joker and I'm drawing a blank on his name.
Oh, so am I. Don't worry.
Conroy, right?
Yes,
the voice actor for Kevin Conroy. As voice actors for two of your most iconic characters in the Batman arc, it's going to be hard. I'm not saying it's not possible, but man alive, both of those guys really just nailed their respective roles for those characters. So going to be a tough one.
Eventually, though,
Yeah, I think it's one of those things. It's important to take a little break. Like, it's important to not push out new Batman stuff in that regard, just to let it, kind of settle down a little bit before you recast it. And I have a feeling they're probably going to go through several voice actors trying to nail down a new Bat voice. Because,
they have been with Batman for a long time now. They've been going through different voices. So it's not like that's something that's been like Jason, what is it, Ankles? I always call him Ankles. I know it's Ackles or something.
Eccles. But like Jensen Ackles.
Yeah, that guy.
Ackles, yeah.
Great guy, by the way. But yeah, he's done it a few times, and he did the Red Hood. He's not too bad.
Yeah, I do remember him doing the Red Hood.
Yeah.
He's an interesting one.
There's a lot of, voice acting. There's a lot of really talented voice actors. You used to pull from a pool of about I don't know, 30 to 40 voice actors in the mid 90s, and then now like there's just so many people, just very talented voice actors.
So what's an up and coming comic that you're excited about? Like something that's new that's coming out that's a little different.
Well, actually, so Marvel just started a Sentry comic, which I think is kind of cool because he's a character that they've always like not really known what to do with because he's just too fucking powerful.
Yeah, they accidentally made the most broken character on the planet.
And now he's getting his own comic, and it seems I don't know. I'm curious to see where they go with that. I'm trying to think of what I've been on a kind of hiatus here a little bit. Actually, just started recently, getting kind of back into it. For those interested, I think in looking at comics and what's coming out, there's a website called Previews World, which is literally just a list of stuff that's coming, and you can look at it by like 2 weeks out. That's where I always go, kind of to see what's up in the next couple weeks.
So I'm interested to get your opinion on this, and I meant to ask you earlier, but do you feel that digital media is hurting comic book sales?
No, not at all.
Just that simple. Wow. It's just not hurt at all. Because like I knew Marvel came out with like their online library essentially where you could get comics and stuff without having to go to the store. Like, you just paid your subscription fee and you could read as many comics as you want.
Yeah, I had that for a little while, but I mean, sure, it's fine. But I think most people that buy comic books because they want the comic book. They don't want to just like. They're not
just there for the story.
Yeah, I mean, having access to it was nice, especially if you want to like read a lot of older stuff. Obviously, it's like harder to get. You can't buy like a Spider-Man #1. It's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, I will say I thought really hard about using my bonus a couple years ago to pick up Spider-Man. I believe it's 262 or 232 or something like that. Which is the first appearance of the Punisher in the Amazing Spider-Man, and oh man, I thought about it real hard. I was like, I could buy this. I think they graded it at like an 8.9, so it was in like fantastic condition, given how old the comic actually is.
Yeah.
But I just, at the end of the day, I can't justify spending that because, like, as soon as you unseal it, it's going to go down another point, and like I have to read it. So yeah, I think digital media is the way to go on that because I've read it like a gajillion times online, but something about having the actual book.
There's a Spider-Gwen #1 signed by Stan Lee at this local comic book shop that I kind of really want to buy all the time. It's signed by Stan Lee and the artist and the writer. It's like $3,000. I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
Oh, so the Sentry #1 literally came out like yesterday.
Yeah, that was. I knew
it looks like there's a team with him.
Why does Sentry need a team? That dude resets the universe.
Well, So from what I could read, I haven't read it yet. Obviously, it just came out, and I ordered it, but I haven't gotten it yet. But from what I understand, kind of the synopsis is like all these people are just like the Sentry has disappeared, and all these people are suddenly appearing with like his like memories, like pieces of his memories or his powers. So and it's like, but then they keep dying. It's like killing them.
Yeah. So I pulled it up right here. It's got a 90 rating right now, so that's amazing. I'm on leagueofcomicgeeks.com, and I guess the Sentry died, but when he did, ordinary people all over the world started manifesting his power and experiencing his actual memories. Yeah, and the big thing is, like you said, like, is one of them going to survive and become the new Sentry? And they also have Misty Knight and Jessica Jones. I don't know if you know who they are. I have no clue.
I love Jessica Jones.
Well, Jessica Jones and Misty Knight. Well, Jessica Jones had her own Netflix show. She was one of the Defenders.
Okay,
Netflix.
Yeah.
I do know her now.
Misty Knight she was in the Luke Cage series. She's one of his characters. Or maybe she was in the Iron Fist. I don't know. There's a lot of crossover in those two comics.
Yeah.
I don't.
And then the shows, I don't remember exactly, but.
What didn't I know Luke Cage and Danny Rand teamed up to do their own like protection agency thing in New York.
Yeah,
and that was a run of comics, and I can't remember for the life of me what the title of it was.
Like the Protectors or something?
Was it just the Protectors? I thought it was something incorporated. I could be wrong. I just know they teamed up and started like a protection business or agency or whatever. Their comic runs are always
Heroes
dope.
For Hire. They're Heroes for Hire.
That's right.
Called. Yeah.
Yeah. They always had like such good interaction. I honestly really liked their interaction in the Defenders series. I thought they nailed it pretty close to how their first few interactions were with the comics, where they started off as kind of
just like
frenemies.
Each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was not impressed by the Iron Fist show in particular.
I thought it was like it was okay. Is as high as I'll rate it. I'm like, this is fine. I didn't go into that show and just be like, this is amazing. Like, I watched the first season of Jessica Jones and I was like, yeah, they could make this forever and I'd be okay.
That's actually Alias Comics. The Alias comic is how they started the Max imprint, which is Alias was Jessica Jones.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh, the new run of DC is Dawn of DC.
Yeah.
Dude,
I think yesterday, the first comic in the new Spider-Man arc, Gang Wars, I think is what it's called, came out as well.
Yes.
I'd love to see Spider-Man get back down to some more like street level crime fighting and personal interactions.
Did you see how they killed him in a recent comic? Like, this comic is not on like a main line or anything. It's like X-Men Future Past. I think I talked about it on another show we did. Like, they just had him get beat up by a bunch of people rioting, and he died that way. I was like, how the fuck do you kill... Like, Spider-Man does not get enough respect. Him and Pikachu never get the respect they're fucking deserve.
Spider-Man has gone like toe-to-toe with Hulk and gotten... like, not necessarily a W, but definitely the better side of an interaction with the Hulk pretty consistently. And it wasn't even like symbiote Spider-Man. It was just Peter Parker and web slingers going up against the Incredible Hulk, and he did okay. Because, I mean, you got to think...
He should.
The Incredible Hulk, like, Wolverine has gone toe-to-toe with the Incredible Hulk and lost, like, horrendously.
Yeah.
Which is not surprising.
Well for Wolverine. Wolverine's really not that great of a fighter in terms of like comic book characters, though. Like,
no,
like he's decent, but he's like he relies so much on not being able to be killed, right? Like you can't kill him, so
he really leans into that because he'll just take a shot, knowing full well that he's going to be fine.
Well, that's a lot of heroes.
It's not even a lot of heroes because you got to look at Spider-Man. Like, he's going to dodge, duck, dip, dive, and dodge to get in on somebody to get the win. Wolverine's just going to let you stab him with a sword. Like, he's not going to care.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, because he's going to be fine.
I mean, a lot of heroes can't, like, if you watch and like look at they can't really fight that well. Like, there's no UFC style fighting going on in comics. It's all like, I punch you, you punch me. Maybe I'll juke this one punch and then I'll punch you. Ha. Like, it's interesting to see.
Taskmaster just owns people in that regard because he's a master of like every fighting style.
Right. And usually, though, you see the people that can fight well is like him because they don't have superpowers. Him and Black Widow, like they don't have their power is fighting.
I mean,
like they know how to fight.
Daredevil is all. Yeah. Well, honestly,
I think it's one of my favorite.
You have to lean in on him because he's my favorite. Frank Castle.
Yeah,
is also an excellent hand-to-hand combat fighter. It's one of those things. He's not going in there to get injured like Wolverine, but he's okay if he does. Like, he's one of those things where he's like, I got a little beat up.
There's a comic with him and Deadpool teaming up, and honestly, it's freaking hilarious. Like, they're not really getting along, and they don't have the same kind of goals. Really, they're kind of looking to like the same greater goal, but like Frank just keeps shooting him in the head, so they'll forget what they were doing.
The comedic value of Deadpool and Frank Castle together, because you have your straight man and then you're obviously your joke in Deadpool, but like I still swear the Civil War series was probably my favorite iteration of the Punisher as part of a group, just because of that interaction where some of the villains were starting to join the various sides. And they brought in Frank Castle, and he's like, "This is the team you're going to be working with." And he kind of looked around the room and then just smoked like 4 dudes in there. And like Captain America was like, "What are you doing?" And he was like, "You know what I do. You brought me here. You knew this would happen. This is your fault, not mine." Like,
also, like I said, another Mark Millar story. Fucking Civil War.
Civil War was so good.
Yeah,
so
definitely
good.
One of my favorite arcs in Marvel. I think my favorite Marvel like Punisher iteration though might be the War of the Skrulls, because he's just fucking fighting like Jotuns and shit.
Yeah, Secret
Invasion or Secret War. I think whenever it's like the end of the world, and Kingpin has this like grand kind of like viewing party for all these villains to like see the end of the world as these two Earths collide. And then Frank shows up and just fucking kills everybody.
Yeah, it just ruins the day for them, not for him. Good day for him.
Yeah.
You really shouldn't get in a group. It just makes it too easy. I think, again, one of my favorite Punisher moments was still when he broke into Stark Labs and stole just a whole bunch of Stark Tech stuff because he needed it to take out Rhino. Which he failed in that regard, because obviously you can't kill Rhino. He's too big of a bad guy to just disappear on. But Rhino had gotten a new super suit and was like rampaging around. Nobody really had an answer, and Frank Castle was just like, "I'm just gonna wait for him to open his helmet, and I'm just gonna shoot him, and that's gonna be the end of this whole thing." And that's literally how that arc ended. You find out later on that he lived, but it's just one of those like Punisher moments that make me laugh.
Who's your favorite Punisher?
Actor?
Yeah,
that's a hard question. Such a hard question for me.
Frank
Castle's my favorite Punisher.
Yeah. Well, there actually is a bunch of different Punishers in the comics too, right? Like there's a couple times where he's died and people take up.
I did not know that.
His mantle.
Yeah, Ghost Rider was the Punisher for a little while, and then vice versa. The Punisher became Ghost Rider, which is
that was Frank Castle actually.
That was Frank Castle as the Ghost Rider.
Yeah. Because he dies when Thanos comes. And he's like, I just want to like get revenge so bad. And then Mephisto's like, well, hey, I got a deal for you, buddy.
Yeah, boy, howdy, do I have a deal for you?
And he becomes Ghost Rider, and then he's like chilling on Earth, and there's nobody alive. And then so Galactus comes, and he's like, yo, what's up? Can I get some of that cosmic power? And Galactus is like, sure, man. So then he becomes a cosmic Ghost Rider.
He's a good Ghost Rider. Frank Castle's built for that kind of work.
He really is.
Dolph Lundgren was probably the best Punisher, because Dolph does everything great. He also was a great He-Man. What
a hot take, because that movie was garbo.
I didn't say the movie was good, but he plays a great random hero. Dolph Lundgren.
John Bernthal's my favorite live-action Punisher.
I love Thomas Jane just from the movie. It's really a neck-and-neck race between John Bernthal and Thomas Jane for me. Mostly because I really loved Thomas Jane. Ray Stevenson also did a pretty good Punisher in a very bad movie.
Rest in peace, bud.
I was so sad how that movie turned. Was one of the few movies where I've gotten up and walked out. Was the Punisher Warzone movie. I was like, this is real bad. So 0 out of 10 for that one. For those of you, I'd rather watch the Dolph Lundgren movie on repeat before I'd watch the Warzone movie again.
I never watched it, actually, because I just heard it was so bad.
It was awful. It was so bad.
Yeah,
I had such high hopes for Ray Stevenson as the Punisher, because I looked at some of the screenshots and trailers for it, and I was like, I can dig on Ray Stevenson as the Punisher. And then the movie just turned out to be an absolute train wreck. So I've got to ask, we've talked about my favorite comic character. You said Doctor Strange. I thought you were more of a Doctor Doom guy. I thought he was your favorite comic.
I do love Doctor Doom.
Who doesn't?
Yeah, I am a big fan of Doom. His run as Iron Man is tied like one of my favorite fucking comics ever.
Did not know he was Iron Man.
Yeah,
he's also been the Sorcerer Supreme.
What's the name? Actually, no, he was close. He was not Actually, the Sorcerer Supreme. Yeah.
Dude, see, this is why I love comics, man. Like, all you fans out there that are enjoying the Marvel movies, you've got to get the comics, man. Like, just give into it, because if you're enjoying what you're seeing on the big screen, those movies aren't even half as good as the comic series they're based on. Like, if you see like any of that, like especially like the Civil War movie that was like an hour and 2 hours, like the comic run was 10 times better at a minimum.
Yeah.
So if you enjoyed that, like, check the comics. Like, the comic runs for these things are great.
The whole Infinity War arc, like, so Thanos' thing in the movie is like this, like, balance, got to maintain balance, which is like such a stupid, like, it doesn't really make sense. Like, logically,
not for his
it doesn't make sense. And in the comic, like, really, just in general, doesn't really make sense because, like, people are just going to keep, you have to re-snap every fucking, million years or something like that, whatever it is. But like in the comic books, he's like just simping after death.
Yeah, like, that was his whole motivation for wiping out that many people. It's like, if I kill half the people in the universe, surely death will notice me.
And she's like, word, man, like, I get it.
Do they even really talk about death at all with Thanos?
She hasn't been
any other runs.
She's not like she's not like a thing in the movies, at least not yet.
Her and Deadpool's dynamic is super creepy.
Yeah.
Because, like, for those of you that don't know, the majority of people in the Marvel Universe cannot physically see death, right? Because it's death. It's like the aspect of death, right? Thanos can, the Mad Titan, which was one of the reasons, I think him being able to see death was one of the reasons that kind of drove him crazy. And then he just became infatuated and in love with death. And Deadpool can see death. And I think that's related to him being unable to die.
And the fourth wall.
Well, he could die. He can die. Until fucking death. Thanos fucking I don't know, made a deal with death or something, so that he can't die, so that he will never be able to be with death. Like, that's later on in the comics, though.
I knew there was some storyline element.
They had this whole little, like, rivalry for the love of death. Thanos and Deadpool.
But Deadpool can only see death isn't it because the fourth wall thing where he's always talking to comic fans?
Yeah, I think it's because
that's why he
crazy.
Can see,
But Moon Knight can't, and he's crazy and does fourth wall breaks.
That's true. No, I would say, but Moon Knight already has fucking Khonshu. He already has a god.
That's true. Yeah, he already talks to an invisible person. Oh my gosh, the one where Khonshu took over his body and was like, I need a pyramid, and then took over the Bass Pro Shop in Tennessee that's built like a pyramid, is probably one of the funniest stupid things in a Moon Knight comic, where he's like, they've built this grand pyramid and it's all for me, and it cuts to like a whiteout in the next frame, and it's the damn Bass Pro Shop in Nashville, Tennessee, and I about died laughing when I read that the first time.
There's actually recently a run of Moon Knight that's coming to an end. It just did, I think. Number 30 just came out. And that was also like apparently a really popular run. So I'm going to have to go back and check that one out. I think I have the first maybe like 10 issues.
I got real high on Moon Knight and then dropped off real fast. I think I jumped in the middle of like a run, and I just kind of, like, it fizzled. The show was great. I liked the show. But yeah, I started to fizzle in the comics.
I'm a big fan of the run of Moon Knight where they really put that question of whether or not Khonshu is real or Mark Spector's just fucking crazy. Like, that's probably my favorite.
About 60-40 split on that one. The Gods series from Marvel was also really good. So when Odin dies and Thor takes over as like the leader of all the like old gods in the universe, he has a toe-to-toe battle with Hulk where he gets the upper hand, which is pretty dope. Mostly because he knows how to fight and the Hulk just knows how to hit things real hard, is usually why Thor gets a big one-up.
I mean, that's usually why the Hulk loses fights, is because he
uncontrolled
doesn't know how to
rage can
fight.
Be taken advantage of. Yeah. But yeah, Thor also has some pretty dark runs in Marvel. Like, everyone thinks like the Taika Waititi movie is a very lighthearted Thor, which there's some comics where he is pretty comical.
Well, they kind of, man, I fucking hate that they did with Gore the God Butcher, and that's the most recent Thor movie, because that's like a pretty fucking dark storyline.
Yeah, they wasted such a good villain on that one. I still thought it was a pretty decent movie. I get a good laugh out of the Thor movies, especially under the direction of Taika Waititi. He knows what he's doing.
He's not going to do any more, I don't think, though.
Nope. I think they're done with Thor for a little while anyway. I think they're trying to transition to some new heroes.
He's taking a hiatus. That's why he's not making the Hulk Hogan movie right now. Because he found out something because he did some sort of genetic testing or something. So
yeah, I do remember saying something about that too. Yeah,
he took he stepped back because he made that crazy show.
He's
gonna be in Furiosa though.
Furiosa, yeah.
Yeah, he plays whatever the madman. I forget his name. The warlord.
I'd be interested to see if he signed on to do that though prior to the saying he's going to slow down on movies.
He looks much smaller. Like, not in a negative way. It just looks like he's kind of laid off on the bulky, heavy weightlifting.
Well, he got jacked because of the Hogan thing. Because, Hogan, the biggest... I mean, you would know.
He was Hogan, jacked the biggest for the Thor movies before the Hogan thing came about. Like, he's been ripped for a good long while. The dude's in fantastic shape.
Yeah. Back to the comics.
Back to the comics.
So...
we talked about your favorite. I have to know, since we always do this all the time, least favorite either comic arc or comic character.
There's so many.
What's a mainstream one?
I just don't like a lot of DC in general. I don't like most of the fucking Justice League comics. I think they're fucking boring. Most Superman comics aren't interesting to me. I like some of the darker DC stuff, like Swamp Thing and Justice League Dark and Constantine.
Right.
But outside of that, I really am not into it.
So I also have to take, what's a hot take character that you just hate that most people love?
I'm trying to think of somebody that I just really hate. I think the X-Men are overrated. That's kind of a hot take.
Yeah, that's huge because I'm a big junkie of the X-Men. Like, if I go into a comic book store and there's new X-Men comics, and they're first, I have to buy the first one. I can't buy 2, 3, and 4. Has to be the first one of the set. I buy it all the time, no matter what. So that is. So what's the reason? I'm just curious. Is it?
I just think that they're over. And there are some good X-Men stories.
Well, yeah. I mean, totally it's good for anything, but I mean,
But overall, I don't know. I think that they just kind of get boring